He was tired, weak, and old, confined to a hospital bed, waiting for time to pass. But the kind nurse who tended to him day and night, she was no stranger. She was someone he had left behind decades ago. His daughter. The one he abandoned. James had lived a long life. Not perfect, but long. At 83 years old, he had lost most of his strength, most of his friends, and most of his memories. He now spent his days in a care facility in Vermont, recovering from a stroke that left him partly paralyzed. His world was now a quiet room, dull lights, and routine visits from nurses. But there was one nurse he looked forward to, a young woman named Clara. Clara had something different, a calmness, a warmth, a tenderness in her care that made James feel safe, even if he couldn't explain why. She smiled at him every morning like she had known him forever. What James didn't know was, she had. 50 years earlier, James had made the worst decision of his life. Back in 1974, he was just 33, a traveling salesman who moved from town to town. In one of those towns, he met a woman named Margaret. They spent a few months together. She got pregnant. James panicked. He wasn't ready. He left without even saying goodbye. Margaret wrote to him once. He never responded. He never met the child. Never even tried. Years passed. He married someone else, had another family. But that guilt always sat quietly in the corners of his mind. What he didn't know was that the child Margaret raised grew up watching her mother cry. That child, Clara, became a nurse, partly because she had watched illness destroy her mother, and partly because she hoped that one day, maybe, just maybe, she'd find the man who left them behind. And one day, while reading the patient charts during a night shift, she saw a name that froze her, James Whitmore, age 83, no visitors, history, stroke. She knew that name. Her mother had whispered it through tears for decades. She had no doubt it was him, but she didn't report it. She didn't confront him. She simply decided, I'll care for him like he should have cared for me. Days turned into weeks. She bathed him, fed him, talked to him, and never told him. Until one day, he asked, Clara, why are you always so kind to me? She smiled, sat next to his bed, and said gently, because I knew someone like you once. Someone who hurt me deeply, but I chose not to carry that pain anymore. He looked puzzled. And then she reached into her pocket and pulled out an old photo. A photo of a young woman and a little girl, standing by a mailbox. The handwriting on the back read, to James, from Margaret and Clara. James stared at it. His hand trembled. He looked up at her, eyes wide, lips shaking, and for the first time in decades, he cried. I didn't know, he whispered. I was a coward. Clara took his hand and said softly, I know, but you don't have to die with that shame. You're not alone anymore. And in that moment, a father met his daughter, not through DNA, but through grace. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs healing. Comment below. Do you believe in forgiveness after decades? Subscribe for more life-changing real stories that restore the heart.